You're just like my father. Never a drop of sympathy.
I'm sorry.
Sorry for what? What the hell good are you if you can't show a little sympathy?
Well, I don't know how.
No, you just know how to cause trouble. Because of you, my bladder's damaged. I can't hold my water. That's why I'm always running to the toilet. Did you know that?
Yes, I know.
I was fine until I gave birth to you. You caused a lot of damage. I should have gotten rid of you the day I found out I was gonna have you. Not one thing you've ever said or done has made all I've gone through with you worthwhile. Not one blessed thing. I should have killed you in my womb. You sure as hell tried to kill me getting out of it.
Oh, fuck that. I'm killing this bitch myself. Alright everybody, it's finally time to end this series with Psycho 4, The Beginning. It's a 1990s straight to Showtime prequel sequel about Norma Bates released from the insane asylum, and now he's married and he is contemplating what to do. Does he want to kill his wife who's pregnant or not? Oh, and meanwhile we got all these little flashbacks kind of like interwoven throughout. It's a prequel sequel. This is brought to you by the director of Critters 2 and Sleepwalkers, Mick Garris. And this is the last one to star Anthony Perkins, who died 2 years later of HIV, and he was diagnosed with it while filming this one at Universal Studios Orlando. I'm not sure if it was the HIV that made him so hard to work with, but everyone was saying that he was hard to work with, but then again, Meg Tilly said that in Psycho 2, so I guess Anthony Perkins was just one of those actors that was hard to work with, and he was very passionate about his role. If that was true, why did he let this movie get made? Because it ruins the character, in my opinion. But anyways, we also get Elliot from E.T. in here. Henry Thomas, the actor, he's in here, and he's like way older than he was in E.T., obviously. And what a lucky fella, he gets to make out with women in this movie. And Olivia Hussey from Black Christmas, you get to see her naked. And this movie was also written by Joseph Stefano, the guy who wrote the first one. That is awesome. So he's writing it, so therefore it's awesome too, right? No, it's not. To me, this was just kind of a messy, not so well written, straight to Showtime sequel that honestly should have never existed. And let's talk about it in this week's Horror Franchise Wednesday.
Psycho 4.
Starting with the little things I do like, this will be very quick. We get to see Olivia Hussey's breast, if that's her. I think it is. If it wasn't, they fooled me. We get the set continuity. Once again, that's the only continuity that exists in this film, besides Anthony Perkins reprising his role for the 4th time. And then the score comes back from the first one. They basically copy and paste it. It's different in some spots, but they copy and paste that first score into this one, and I like it. Other than that, I don't have any more positives. I did not enjoy this one at all. I don't even have a favorite shot. I have no favorite shot. So now let's just discuss all the little things I do not like and the big things. First up, Olivia Hussey. What the fuck? This was awful. I thought her performance was dreadful. Alright, it's not the worst thing ever, but still, I don't know what's wrong with her accent. Why does she have an accent? Does she always sound like that? I don't remember her having an accent in Black Christmas. Did she? She's a Canadian actress, but she has this weird accent that almost makes the movie unwatchable to me. And she doesn't look like Norma Bates at all, so it was a complete miscast. She looks nothing like that corpse.
I thought my jokes were bad.
Now every time when I watch Black Christmas, I'm going to think about this movie. So now I got to flush that memory out of my head. Much better. Okay, the big thing that I hate about this movie is that it ignores continuity. It ignores the second and third movie. So we erased that timeline. We're doing Halloween H2O. So now it's part 1 and now this one. And it's a prequel sequel. And it's just totally idiotic. The whole, like, this movie feels like 2 movies in one. They'd be like, all right, let's do this movie where he's just on the phone the whole time. And he's having this wife and this situation. And then let's do this prequel movie and let's just smash them together somehow. And it's going to make sense and it's going to flow. No, it doesn't. It's just dumb. Make one or the other. Stick with one. This could have been like a prequel that like led up to the events of the first one. Like this movie should have ended with like Marion Crane arriving at the hotel. Like it should have like went all the way up to the first movie. That would have been a great prequel. Even though I don't like prequels. And that's another negative. This is a prequel. We get nothing new that we... Like everything that this movie shows you is shit that you've been told about and heard and was like part of the mythos, the lore. Like just 2 missing girls. That, at the end of the first movie, they're like, how many missing girls cases are there? 2. We get to see those 2 girls die now, you know, and the parents being poisoned. We get to see it now. Who gives a shit? We already know about it. So technically, 0 people die in this movie. Because the people that do die was years ago, and we've already established those deaths as part of the kill count for the first movie. So 0 people die in this movie. And the plot surrounding these flashbacks is dumb. It's Norman Bates on a phone for 90% of the film, and then like the last 20 minutes, he's finally off the phone and at a house, his old house. And it's just why we're there and everything is so uninteresting and just lifeless. This movie just feels lifeless. There's no tension, there's no nail-biting scenes, there's no misdirection or mystery, there's nothing to hook onto, there's no characters to hook onto, there's nothing provided from this movie. But seriously, like the whole like pregnant wife plot is irrelevant to all these flashbacks and it has no reason to exist. Because you think this whole phone conversation's like, what, him trying to like find reason to not kill his wife? Like, someone talked me out of it, but it doesn't even look like he wants to be talked out of it at all. So, therefore, it was for nothing. Like, let's just tell my life story, and I'm going to tell everybody what I'm about to do, and then I'm going to go do it. And then he doesn't do it. So, it's just useless. And he flips on a dime, like, I'm going to kill my wife. And then he sees himself in the knife, and he's like, oh, never mind. It's just that quick. It just changes. So, it's like, the whole phone conversation thing was useless and pointless to me. It just made no sense. Why is it here? It doesn't need to be here because, like I just said, the whole phone call had no effect on his final decision. It was his reflection. So the whole first two-thirds of this movie, completely useless. And they throw in this wife character who's pregnant and I'm supposed to care why. I don't know her. She's just thrown in at the 11th hour and it's like, oh, she's the wife. Oh, he wants to kill her. Those are things you find out in the last 20 minutes, and it's like, I don't care. I don't know her, but I know she's retarded because she's married to Norman Bates. Who the fuck would do that? And it's not fun to see Anthony Perkins in this movie because he's just on the phone, like I said, the whole time. So there's no great performance to be given. There's no character study, no, like, deeper knowledge that we get of him. In fact, knowledge we get of his kid version is like some horrible version that we never needed to know. In fact, it would have made much more sense, and it would have made it more darker and better if the chemistry between him and his mom, if it was great. If they just loved each other, and then one day he snapped like Michael Myers and just killed her. That would have been really creepy and effective. But instead, they kind of mishmash both. Like, there's like moments where it's like he really likes his mom and she really likes him, and then they make it sexual and sensual, and you know, this movie's rated R for violence and sensuality, even though there's flat out a bunch of nudity in it, so that's a lie. But it's got all the sensual, like, sexual moments, and it's awkward. It succeeds at being awkward and uncomfortable, so good job, A+ for that. But they like don't know what it doesn't know what it wants to do. It's like, do you want me to feel like there's this great relationship there? Because what you're showing me makes no sense why he loves her at all. She is the biggest cunt ever. And you saw my open to this video. That's her throughout the whole fucking time. And then, like, randomly, she's really nice. And then she just flips on a dime and she's beating him with a newspaper. They should have just made her nice the whole time. And it would have made him poisoning her because of that jealous rage. Like, I love her. She's a nice woman. She's my mom. My dad died when I was 5. Even though in this movie they say 6. How can you fuck that up? The same writer as the first movie, he messed that up somehow. 6 now. So dumb. But it would have made so much sense. Like, he kills her, jealous rage, blah, blah, blah. And it would have just been so much better if there was good chemistry between them. But no, it just kind of like goes back and forth. Like, they like each other. She's a bitch, and she's nice to him, and she's a bitch to him again. A perfect example would be this scene right here. So yeah, now we got this sleepaway camp thing where she's like, you're a girl now, just pretend like you're a girl, blah, blah, blah. Pretend your dick fell off and now I'm gonna put makeup on you. And it's so over the top and just dumb. It's just, you can't help but sit there and go like, what? Like, look at the person next to you like, are we watching this right now? Is this happening? This is not backstory that we needed, all right? Like, the whole first movie, it was just like, okay, he was jealous. He killed his mom because she found a new guy. That's all we needed. So all this is just dumb and dumb. Like, it's just dumb. I don't need it. Okay, yeah, and then there's this doc, and they kind of make reference that maybe he's the doc who gives that 5-minute exposition scene at the end of the first movie, but he's not. But he might as well been, because his name's very close. In this movie, he's called Dr. Leo Richmond, or Richmond, M-O-N-D. But then in the first Psycho, his name was like Fred Richman. So very close, but not the same person. And why he's in here, I have no idea. Like, he's talking, he's like, I think this is Norman Bates. And with all the evidence of what you've been hearing would point to that. And the other people are like, no way, there's no way it's Norman. It's like, really? Psychopath, 22 years later, dressed like a girl. And just, like, really? It all adds up. Hotel, it's all mentioned. But then that guy, the doctor, he just leaves the studio, of the radio studio, and he's never seen from or heard from again. He does nothing for the story. Nothing. And I'm supposed to believe that Norman got married? That's a stretch and a half. Really? Why? They could have at least tried to expand upon that, like show that relationship grow real quick. You know, just try to do something with that. But instead, like, we got married because it was love at first sight. No, that's easy. That's the easy write-off. Like, it was just love at first sight. They're in love. They got married. And the ending of this movie is so uneventful. And then it, like, purposely tries to drag out. And what pisses me off is that it's basically, kind of in a way, ripping off part 3. Which the writer of this movie, Joseph Stefano, straight up said in an interview, he ignored parts 2 and 3 when writing this because he despised them. And now you're going to copy the end of the third one? These movies were all known for having great endings. Psycho 1, terrific ending. Psycho 2, great ending, like full circle. You know, it ties well together. You know, like he's Psycho in the first one, he becomes normal at the beginning of the second one throughout, and then he goes back. So it's like full circle, and it ends with him on the doorstep and that silhouette and the new dead mom's in the window. Perfect ending. Psycho 3, he finally confronts that evil mom side, kills the mom, and then is leaving the house, and he's like, I'm free, I'm finally free. Great ending, alright, it's pretty good. I don't care for the whole, like, dead mom's arm thing. I could do without that, but this movie's ending is basically part 3 again, except the thing he's getting rid of this time, instead of the mom, he's getting rid of the house. That's what triggers him. He's burning the house down, and then he sees, like, all these past victims pop up, just to kind of throw in at scares, or just visuals. I don't know what they're for. But they're dumb. They don't do anything. But they just drag that sequence out. He's like limping and crawling out of the house. Like, is he gonna make it out? I don't know, and I don't care. And when he does make it out, he says, I'm free. I'm finally free. It's like, you're ripping off part 3, and you said that movie sucked, it's terrible, and you're gonna ignore it, but then you're gonna rip it off at the same time? Fuck you. But yeah, no good tension, no good kills, no mystery, and this movie has unnecessary forced, like, callbacks, like the blood in the sink going down. It's like, oh, he just randomly cut his thumb so we can have this little callback. It just feels forced at this point. So final thoughts for this crappy prequel sequel is that you can just skip it. Do not watch it, alright? It's not a movie that you will be entertained by. It's just Anthony Perkins on the phone the whole time, and it's not interesting at all. It does nothing. It's not worth your watch. So therefore, I'll say when it comes to Psycho 4, that this movie is wasted time. The Hottest Chick Award goes to the first victim. This chick is like flirting with him, and she is so horny for him because fireworks make her horny. And the Clapper Award for Best Scene goes to the parents being poisoned, because I couldn't stand Olivia Hussey, so seeing her go finally was a dream come true. Now let's go into my spoiler discussion. This is going to be very quick. It's probably going to be the quickest review, so sorry if you like longer reviews, you're not going to get it. So this movie opens up very annoying, this weird editing. There's like 2 frames and then like words, 2 frames, words. And then this movie has this guy's mouth. It starts on the guy's mouth for like 30 whole seconds, and it's, again, annoying to me. And then we meet Norman. He calls the station, and he says his name's Ed, which is a obvious homage to Ed Gein, who is the reason why Norman Bates exists, and why that book was written, and why the movie was written and made. So, and then we get this ditzy blonde. We get our first flashback, and Norman meets this blonde, and she's like totally coming on to him strong, like, let's go to your place. Let's go to your bedroom. Is your mom up there? Let's just fuck. And she's like very open about it.
Never heard a girl talk like you before.
Like what? A moron? Because that's what she is. But anyway, she goes up to the room and we see her tits. And then she gets stabbed multiple times. This is the first time that Norman's killed. And this is the first time he's putting on the mom dress and everything. So this is the very first victim we get to see from Norma Bates. Chronologically, this is the first one after the parents being poisoned. So technically not, but you know what I mean. Whatever. So, and then we get the call back again. Blood, mother, oh, blood. Then, you know, a mother's friend is, you know, a boy's best friend is his mother. That's another callback, as if we didn't already get that in part 2 and 3. Like, how many times are we going to do this shit? And then Norman says, my dad died when I was 6. And immediately I'm like, bullshit. 5, buddy. Get it right. And then we get the reason why Norman eventually is so psychotic is because his mom's sexually abusing him. Like, she's like scared of storms that much. She's like all scared of storms, and he comes in and she's like, sit down with me, but take your clothes off. Sit down with me. Your clothes are too wet. And you look at his jeans and you're like, they're not wet, liar. And then we find out that Norman's dad made a hole in the wall. So what, the dad was the peeping Tom before he died? Okay, that makes no sense, but whatever. And then we get that fucked up scene where Norma wants the son to be a girl. You know, you're gonna wear a dress, makeup, call yourself Norma, like me, blah, 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 ripping off Sleepaway Camp. And it's so dumb. It's awful. You know, like, there's so many weird moments in this movie. It's like she's pouring sweet tea on herself, and she wants the son to, like, pour, like, ointment on her. It's like, rub it on my skin. Does my skin disgust you?
What should I use to blot it with?
Your fingers. Unless my skin disgusts you.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it does, you loony bitch. Then the doc claims to be the one who interrogated Norman at the end of 1, even though I think that's bullshit. He doesn't have the same name. And then the mom berates the son in an over-the-top rant that would make anyone snap and murder. And then we see her naked, fucking Chet, the lazy eye guy. I can't do that. Lazy eye guy. She really knows how to pick him. And Chet, since he's got that lazy eye, he doesn't see red flags too good, because it should have been a major red flag when the woman you're banging tells you that her son is hung. How the fuck would she know? And are you okay with that shit? Obviously. It's stupid. Stupid. And then Norman's making out with older women because, you know, it makes sense. Is that called Oedipusy? What's that called? There's a word for that. Where you fuck women who remind you of your mom. There's a big word for that. But he's fucking an older woman because she reminds him of his mom or something. Or because she's just old. And then he sneaks into the back of the car and, like, tries to strangle her. And he goes, drive, whore! In his mom's voice. And it's hilarious.
Drive, whore!
I like that he was somehow able to sneak into the back of that car without making a single noise. And then this is the first body he puts in the swamp. And what's funny about this scene is that he has to strangle her twice, and that's still not enough. She's in the trunk, like, screaming, and you can hear it. So both times he strangled her wasn't enough. And we need to see that more in horror movies. People who strangle others, and then they, like, wake up, they come to later on. Because not everybody's good at strangulations, you know? You know? Ask my ex-girlfriend, she'll tell you. And then we see that he steals his mom from the funeral home as opposed to what was said in the first movie, which was the cemetery. He dug her back up. Why isn't there continuity? This is the same writer. And then we find out that Norman has this wife, and she's the one he wants to kill because she's pregnant. He doesn't want his seed to, you know, be the next Norman Bates and start killing again. He wants to save people by killing the unborn child. So I can see why, you know, it makes sense, but it's not needed in this movie. It could have been its own separate film, like I said, so it's stupid. But he poisons the parents, and then he drags them into the fruit cellar to hide their bodies, because that's what the first movie established. No, it wasn't. They were found dead on their bed. That's what the cops said, right? I'm pretty sure that's what was said. So, once again, continuity, out the window. We see Norman eating candy corns like he does in the first movie. There's some continuity. Jesus Christ, this movie. And then we get this stupid callback to the first movie where the wife is driving the car and she's had these conversations are going on in her head, except they're real conversations that actually took place as opposed to the first movie, which were imaginary conversations that didn't take place. And yeah, the wife, just like Chet, doesn't see red flags very well either, because she drives all the way to the old, decrepit house that obviously is a trigger for Norman. And she's like, all right, I'll drive to your house. It's your birthday after all. And then she sees him with the knife, and it just kind of just freezes and stares at him. And there's so many opportunities for her to just fucking leave, but she won't. She's being all slow about it. And you just want to slap her right across the face. You want to reach in through the screen and time travel your hand back into 1990 and slap her in the fucking face. But yeah, then Norman, he like has his wife pinned up. He sees himself in the knife and he's like, oh, this isn't me. I don't want to kill you no more. Woo, the last 90 minutes were irrelevant and dumb and useless and pointless, and this whole movie just sucks. This movie sucks. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I didn't like this movie. And then he burns the house down, and we see the past victims, blah, blah, blah. Copies the third movie. He's like, I'm free. And nobody's arrested for arson or attempted murder or disturbing the peace. For everything he said on the radio alone, arrest this man. Alright? Attempted murder on his wife, and then arson. Add it all up, he's arrested. But what did the cops do? They don't show up at all. So what was the whole radio station thing for? The DJ, the doctor, everybody there, they're like, call the cops. Someone needs to call the cops. And they even say it, like, all right, we're going to call the cops. Someone's going to get murdered. And then no cops show up. And they knew goddamn well that this was Norman Bates, because he admitted right before he hung up that it was Norman Bates himself. And then the hotel, they knew about it, because it's the infamous story. So why weren't the cops at the end of the movie? They should have been there to save the day, or pop up at least and arrest his ass. And what did the firefighters do? They just put the fire out and then they leave. They should have at least called the cops too, because that was clearly arson. They have to do an investigation. Like, all right, what caused this? Clearly arson. So fucking arrest him.
I'm free.
But instead, they just walk on their own little merry way, off to the sunset, roll credits, happy ending, and then we hear a baby crying, implying that she gave birth to the kid, so yay! Who gives a shit? The Mr. Hat Award for Best Kill goes to the parents who get poisoned, because I could not stand them any longer. I wanted them out of the movie, and thank God they died. And the Mr. Twig Award for Worst Kill goes to the first victim, who is stabbed repeatedly in both shoulders, and it's shot poorly, and it just looks bad. There, it's over. We can end this franchise next week with a Psycho ranking, and then we'll move on to my next franchise. I won't tell you what it is, but I can tell you that it's going to be one hell of a franchise to review. And those are my thoughts on Psycho 4. Did you like this movie? Post your defending in the comments below. Defend it. I've seen some fans of it lately. There are fans, believe me. But, hey, whatever, to each their own. But thank you so much for joining tonight. Hit this like button over here to show your support, and you can become a subscriber today just by simply clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.
Yeah.